I have a recurring dream. In my dream, there's an old town. It's in ruins. The funny thing is it isn't an ancient town. It used to have a Dollar General and a Shell gas station. You could see the remains of a Lucky's Diner on the corner and a Dickinson's menswear store. There was a post office made of brick and mortar, and across the street from there was a Ben Franklin five and dime store. But it's in ruins. The streets are broken, the windows are smashed out. There's pillars of concrete with bent rebar bursting through the earth. A few desperate blades of desert grass are thrusting their brown tendrils through the sidewalk, looking for somewhere to make a purchase. What really gets me in the dream is the silence. I can't even hear my own heart beating. There's no wind, there's no far-off whistle of a bird. There's no buzzing of an insect. There's no children in the streets, no lovers whispering, no mourners, no laughers. It's just a heavy darkness, but a darkness of sound rather than a darkness of light. It weighs so heavy, the silence, you can almost feel it. I can't even hear a ringing in my ears. In my dream, the light itself in the town has a tinge of yellow, but it's all too bright and too hot and too strange. It's almost like the sun got too close. In my dream, there's an elusive feeling of ancient pain. I wake up and I try to put my finger on it and taste it, but I can't. It's just I wake up feeling uneasy. It feels like an unsafe place where something is wrong and something cursed, and it happened many years ago. These ruins in my dream are far away. I can still see the road that I have to drive to get there. I don't know why I'm going there. To get there, I drive a car. I travel up a curving road. I go past this large reservoir. I know that people usually have boats on the lake, and they ski and swim and laugh and drink sun-kissed orange soda pop and 7-Up out of styrofoam coolers. I think that's a memory from my actual life. But in my dream, the water is black and still. The trees are stunted and dying. The lake is empty of houseboats and revelers. There's just silence and nobody. My car takes the long circle around the lake to the ruins. And again, I don't know why I'm going, but I'm afraid of these ruins. There's a taste in the back of my throat that I can't pin down. It feels like a long-forgotten pain. And that pain is somehow associated with a town in ruins. There's something about ruins that call my soul to sober reflection. Poets and artists and musicians understand the power of ruins. Ruins speak of wasted dreams and past disasters and forgotten friendships. One of my favorite tone poems is by Rachmaninoff, written in 1906, called The Isle of the Dead, which he tried to capture that elusive pain in the painting of the same name. There's a dark boat with dark, nebulous figures in it heading towards the Isle of the Dead. Ruins speak of change and decay that surround everything. I might be the first to dream of the ruins of a Dollar General, but I'm not the first to dream of ruins. Shakespeare's Hamlet reminisces over a skull in a graveyard. Shelley writes of Ozymandias. He writes, I met a traveler from an antique land who said 2 vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert near them, on the sand, half sunk. A shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command Tell that its sculptor well those passions read which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things, the hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, My name is Osmandius, King of Kings. Look on my works, ye mighty, and despair. Nothing beside remains. Round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the lone and level sands stretch far away. The ruins of the shattered visage, the skull of Yorick, the ruins of a dollar general, are echoes of a reality that none of us really want to face. That here, under the sun, we have no lasting country. Our labors, our buildings, our loved ones, our art, our music, every endeavor under this sun are headed to the grave, and no amount of effort, money, skill, wisdom, or beauty will alter that reality. That strikes at the heart of who we are. It makes us restless and uneasy. For we were created to have a purpose and meaning. We were created to love God and live with Him in eternal blessedness, to praise Him forever. But now the world is under a curse. We don't live as we were created to live. We are not yet home. We now live in a world that the inspired preacher in the book of Ecclesiastes calls under the sun. Even the sun will burn out and die. Under the sun in the book of Ecclesiastes describes everything that we see, everything we can examine, everything that we describe and know with our senses. It's the labor we undertake, the spouses we marry, the kids we raise, the music, the art, the poetry, our pets. On the one hand, all these things are sublime. Back to Hamlet, Shakespeare wrote, What a piece of work is a man! How noble in reason, how infinite in faculty, in form and moving, how express and admirable. In action, how like an angel, in apprehension, how like a god, the beauty of the world, the paragon of animals. And yet, to me, what is this quintessence of dust? There are women whose beauty takes your breath away. There's music whose beauty sends chills up and down your spine. But under the sun, the inspired preacher says, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. The word vanity was also the name of the first murder victim, Abel. In Hebrew, it's pronounced hevel, two breathy consonants. To pronounce the word is to know the meaning. Hevel, breath, vapor, huffing, nothing substantial, emptiness. You see the meaning of the name in the names of the first two boys, Cain and Abel. The promise of the garden was that the seed of the woman would crush the head of the serpent. And the first man born was Cain. His name means substance, something. Eve says, I've gotten a man from the Lord. The late night talk show host David Letterman once had a bit on his show. I think it was back in the 90s. The bit was called, Is This Something? He would have strange performers, as he usually did, come out and would do something ridiculous. He'd look at his band leader, Paul Schaefer, and make a determination. Is this something? And the answer would be, no, it's nothing. Or, yeah, that's something. And he would have dancing dogs or twirling batons or people attempting to sing or play an instrument. When they got done, he'd look at Paul and say, oh, is that something? Paul would say, yeah. No, that was nothing. Or, yeah, that was something. When Cain was born, Eve said, "This one is something. He'll make a name. He'll overcome this curse. He'll fix what's wrong. I've gotten a man from the Lord." When Abel was born, Eve apparently saw him and said, "This is hevel. This is nothing. Vapor, breath, wind." With that in their names, it's no wonder that Cain responded in fury when God accepted Abel and didn't accept Cain. You can hear him saying, "You receive him? Don't you know he's nothing? Look at me, I'm something. Look at me." And thus we see in Cain our natural religion. Look at me. I'm something. Look what I've done. Look at my accomplishments. Look at my wisdom. Look at my life. I've built a Dollar General. Look on my works, ye mighty in despair. I have a reputation. I have possessions. I have power. I have influence over people. I have beauty. I have riches. I have wealth. A Pharisee of the Pharisees. A Hebrew of the Hebrews. Is this something? Ecclesiastes 1, vanity of vanities. All is hevel. 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 Breath. The Hebrew language has a way of connecting nouns together. It's known as a construct relationship. In English, we connect those Hebrew words together with the word of. So we'll say vanity of vanity, song of songs, death of death. It can have a wide variety of meanings. When the nouns are the same word, vanity of vanities, song of songs, it's a superlative, the highest degree. So, for example, the Holy of Holies means the most holy place. It's the place with the highest degree of holiness. The Song of Songs is the song of the highest degree, the songiest of all songs. And so also here, vanity of vanities. It's kind of a strange way of putting things. Vanity is nothing, emptiness, worthlessness. And the highest vanity, the highest worthlessness, the highest nothingness, if you can even describe that, how do you multiply zero by itself? That's everything under the sun. Here's the wisdom. Here's the pinnacle of the highest thought that the wisest man had who ever lived. You can imagine him coming to his throne, to his place of wisdom, with a whole world of assembly coming to him. Jesus said the Queen of the South came to hear the wisdom of Solomon and heard him. People all over the world gathering together to hear his wisdom. This is his final speech, his greatest accomplishment. They gather in anticipation. The crowd is hushed. They wait for the pearls of wisdom to fall from the voice of the wisest man who ever lived. And what does he say? Love your families and live life to the fullest. No one goes to their deathbed wishing they had spent more time at the office. Does he say carpe diem? Does he say work harder? You want the secret of life? This is what he says. Everything under the sun is empty vapor, utter nothingness. The vanitiest of all vanities. The ruins of a Dollar General, a post office, Lucky Steiner, or the statue of a great king whose name is forgotten. It's a breath, a vapor. Is this something? The late night hosts look at Solomon and say, "Is this something?" And they bring out on the stage the wisdom of the ages. They bring out Ozymandias, King of Kings. They bring out Yorick, the skilled jester and the kind friend. They bring out the ubiquitous Dollar General. They bring out the music and the dancing and the wisdom and the foolishness and the love and the hatreds and the wine and the whiskey and the presidents and the congressmen and the senators and the next policy meetings and the caucuses and the mountains of books and the poems and the essays and the films. And they say, tell me, is this something? And the wisest man says, Hevel. It's nothing. It's a vapor, utter madness. Is this simply the musings of depression? Is this an atheistic nihilism? Is this simply nirvana, the state of nothingness that the Buddhist aspires to? Is the secret to happiness to give up all desire? No, not in Christianity. It's simply an acknowledgement of the truth that can only come from the Most High. Under the sun, you won't find your place. Under the sun, you won't find your purpose. Under the sun, you have no place to stand. Under the sun, although we see God's order, glimpses of God's beauty, we see the government of men. We also see that there is much that we do not see. For God's wisdom is far, far higher than ours. Ultimately, all of man's labors under the sun are nothing. Vapor, breath, wind. We fade and die like the flowers of the field. Psalm 103. The challenge, then, in the Christian life is to walk by faith, not by sight. Because God has not left this world to its ruins. The problem is that we expect the kingdom of God, but we think that it'll look like everything else under the sun. We want to tell God what success looks like. We want to tell God what wisdom looks like. We want to tell God what something looks like, and it usually looks like me. I'm something, right? Or we point to a bigger version of me and say, look at that guy. Isn't that guy something? But the shepherd says, no, this isn't something. This is nothing. So for once, turn off Facebook, turn off the TV, take out the earplugs, look at your life. When you finish this, think about it. Meditate on what you are doing. What is this? What are you accomplishing? Look at all of mankind. Look at what we spend our time with. Our hopes and our dreams and our buildings and our societies and our leaders and our teachers and our music and our art. Look at the wise men of the world. Look at everything that's done under the sun. And when you're done looking at it, repeat with me. Hevel. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. This is where you will find rest in a tremendous contradiction. Ozymandias collapses in the desert. The town falls to ruin. The jester's lips rot off the skull. The dollar general falls into ruin. And here, as we will see in this series, is where we will finally find our freedom. We've shackled ourselves to cruel bondage. We've become enslaved to building up castles of straw. We've become bondservants to utter nothingness and have become slaves to the vanitiest of vanities. We've bonded our name to our jobs, our reputations, our possessions, our toys, our wealth. We've become slaves to bank accounts and stock portfolios. We've allowed our self-worth to be determined by how many books we've read, whether we're married or not, what kind of kids we have, what kind of knowledge we have, what accomplishments we've made. We've enslaved ourselves to the opinions of others. Do they greet us on the marketplace? Am I something? How many likes did my last post get? How many people do I count as friends? How many people look at me and say, now here's something? If we had looked at Cain, we would have said to ourselves, this is a man from the Lord. But Cain was nothing. East of Eden, Cain builds a city. He names the city after his son. Here's my line, here's my city, here's my legacy, here's my place to stand. The flood took it all away. We don't even know where the ruins are. There are those who don't even know if Cain existed or not. I believe the Bible, so I believe that he existed. But not because he's left his name to the world. The fact is, we all live east of Eden, which Solomon calls under the sun. Mankind spread throughout the world, bringing with them the spirit of Cain. This is my name, my city, my identity. I'm something. The endless quest to be something produced millions, billions who were treated as nothing. They were nailed to crosses, fuel for the fire, fodder for the mills, slaves for the mines, buried in mass graves, their names forgotten forever. The world was shackled to bondage and ruin. But God made a promise. And the day would come when the promised seed would arrive. And the whole world would look at this baby born in a manger and say, that's nothing. Born outside, laid in a manger, wrapped in swaddling cloths, despised, rejected. He didn't come in the form of something. He came as a slave. Cain has a city. Jesus didn't even have a place to lay down. He entered our world of vanity, of breath, of nothingness, was born under the law, Paul says, under the curse, and lived a life of obedience in our world of vanity, and was crucified as a slave and a criminal. And he turned the world upside down. And he says to each one of us, come to me, all you who weary and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. That's what we're going to look at over the weeks to come. Be at peace.